The housekeeper's daughter asks to sing with the young millionaire at a party, and his response is unexpected. The sound of the piano echoed through the ballroom of the Carter mansion, but it was an empty sound. Nathan pressed the keys with technical precision, performing a classical piece he had played hundreds of times before. His fingers moved automatically, as if they were programmed for the task. There was no soul in the music, only obligation. The party guests mingled in groups, champagne glasses in hand, their jewelry glittering under the crystal chandeliers. No one paid any real attention to the piano. It was just background music for their conversations about business, expensive trips, and social gossip. Nathan knew this and didn't care. For years, playing had become just part of the show, an empty performance to keep up appearances. He watched the ballroom without interrupting the melody. Waiters moved about with silver platters, serving refined canapes. The women wore long, elegant gowns, the men tailored suits. Everything was perfect, everything planned, everything predictable, like his life. Nathan was 32 and had inherited not only the family fortune, but also all the expectations that came with it. The company, the parties, the arranged marriage that had ended in divorce 2 years ago. Now he lived alone in the mansion with his mother, fulfilling social rituals that no longer made sense to him. The keys continued to move under his fingers, C major, a minor, progressions he knew by heart. How long had it been since he had truly felt joy in playing? He couldn't remember. The piano had been his passion in childhood, but that was before the formal lessons, before the mandatory performances, before it all became just another family expectation. From the corner of his eye, he noticed a small, discreet figure moving among the guests. Monica Bennett, the housekeeper. She had worked at the mansion for 3 years, always silent, always efficient. Nathan barely spoke to her beyond polite greetings. He knew she was a widow, that she worked hard to support her daughter on her own. A small child walked beside Monica, a little blonde girl with light blue eyes, who couldn't have been more than 5 years old. Her blonde hair fell in soft curls to her shoulders, and she wore a simple little dress, a stark contrast to the exaggerated elegance of the other guests. Nathan had never seen her before. The girl looked at everything with wide, curious eyes, the enormous flowers in the vases, the paintings on the walls, the sparkling chandeliers on the ceiling. But it was when her eyes landed on the piano that something in her expression changed. She stopped walking and stood mesmerized, watching Nathan's fingers move across the keys. Monica noticed her daughter had stopped and went back to get her. "Chloe, come on," she whispered, trying not to draw attention. "We can't get in the way." But the little girl didn't move. She was completely captivated by the music, even the mechanical version Nathan was producing. Her little blue eyes followed every movement, as if she were watching magic happen. Nathan could see her subtly swaying to the rhythm. Nathan noticed the child's attention, and for the first time in years, felt truly watched as he played. Not by the guests who pretended to listen, but by someone who seemed genuinely interested in the music. The piece came to an end, and Nathan paused, as he always did between songs. The guests continued their conversations, completely ignoring that the music had stopped. But the little girl began to slowly approach the piano. Monica noticed immediately. "Don't, Chloe, no," she called softly, but the girl was already beside the piano bench. Nathan looked down and met those crystal blue eyes staring at him with a pure curiosity he had long forgotten existed. "Mister," the little girl said in her thin, sweet voice, "can I sing with you?" The room didn't fall completely silent, but a few conversations quieted down. Nathan blinked, surprised by the unexpected question. "Do you know how to sing?" he asked, more out of curiosity than doubt. A few nearby guests began to chuckle softly. A woman in a gold dress whispered something to her husband, discreetly pointing at the girl. Nathan noticed the laughter and felt a strange irritation rising in his chest. Chloe didn't seem to notice the adult's reaction. She nodded her head energetically. "Yes, I do. Mommy says I sing beautifully. I sing to the birds at my house." The simplicity of her answer touched something in Nathan he thought he had lost. Singing to the birds. When was the last time he had played music for pure joy? Nathan looked at Monica, who was visibly nervous, trying to approach to get her daughter without causing a scene. "I'm sorry, Mr. Carter," she said quickly. "Chloe, come here right now." But something inside Nathan rebelled against all that cold formality, against the condescending laughter of the guests, against the shame Monica felt because her daughter had asked an innocent question. "No," Nathan said, surprising himself. "She can sing." Monica stopped in her tracks, her eyes wide. Some guests stopped talking completely to watch the scene. Nathan could feel his mother's disapproving stare from across the room. "So what song do you want to sing?" he asked Chloe, ignoring everyone else. The little girl thought for a moment, placing her finger on her chin. "Can it be one I made up?" Nathan almost smiled. When was the last time someone had offered him an original song? Of course. He began to play a simple melody in C major, something a child could easily follow. Chloe was silent for a few bars, just listening. Then she began to sing. What came from that 5-year-old's throat wasn't technically perfect. It didn't have the precision of a trained singer or the power of an adult voice, but it had something Nathan hadn't heard in years. Truth. Little bird flies high, high in the blue sky. He sings a little song that makes my heart shine. When I grow up, I want to fly too, and sing for everyone to hear. Chloe's voice was pure, sweet, and unpretentious. She sang with her whole body, swaying slightly to the rhythm, completely lost in the moment. And Nathan, for the first time in years, felt his hands respond to the music in a different way. Without realizing it, he began to improvise chords that complemented the girl's spontaneous melody. His fingers found notes that weren't in the formal repertoire he always played. He was creating real music, in the moment, reacting to the childlike voice that floated over the keys. The ballroom had fallen completely silent. All the guests had stopped to listen to this unlikely duo, an elite pianist and a 5-year-old girl creating music together. Chloe continued making up verses about birds, flowers, and dreams. She sang about a cat that wanted to fly, about stars that came down to play on Earth. Her imagination flowed freely, and Nathan found himself anticipating her next creations, his fingers dancing on the keyboard to accompany each new idea. It was then that Nathan realized something extraordinary. He was having fun. Truly having fun with music for the first time in decades. He wasn't worried about mistakes. He wasn't thinking about the audience's reaction. He was just creating. The spontaneous music took on a life of its own. Nathan added little embellishments, instrumental bridges that connected Chloe's improvised verses. She giggled with delight when she realized what he was doing and began to have a musical conversation with the piano. When the song came to an end, Chloe simply smiled and said, "All done." The silence that followed was different from any other Nathan had ever experienced. It wasn't the polite, disinterested silence he was used to. It was the silence of people who had truly stopped to listen. Then the applause began. Not the automatic, polished applause Nathan always received, but genuine, warm applause. Some people even approached the piano. "What a beautiful voice," said an elderly lady, smiling at Chloe. "She has a lot of talent," commented a man with grey hair. "And you, Mr. Carter, I've never seen you play with so much life." "That was magical," exclaimed a young woman. Chloe smiled shyly and hid a little behind the piano bench, but Nathan could see she was beaming with the positive attention. Nathan looked at her and felt something strange happening in his chest. It was as if something that had been dormant for years had awakened. The music he had just played had come from a place inside him he thought he had lost forever. "You sing very well," he said to Chloe, and this time his voice came out warmer than he intended. "Thank you," she replied, clapping her hands. "You play really pretty, too. Can I sing again another day?" The question hit Nathan like a lightning bolt. She wanted to come back. She wanted to create more music together. When was the last time someone had genuinely wanted to make music with him? Before Nathan could answer, Monica appeared beside her daughter, still visibly nervous. "Chloe, we've bothered Mr. Carter enough," she said, taking the girl's hand. "We need to go." Nathan watched the mother and daughter walk away and felt a strange urge to call them back. There was something about that little girl that had awakened a part of him he thought was dead. But the guests were already dispersing, returning to their conversations. He placed his hands on the keyboard again and began to play the next piece from his formal repertoire. But now the notes sounded different. Not empty like before, but filled with a recent memory. The voice of a child singing about birds and dreams. The party continued for another 2 hours. Nathan played all the pieces he always played, received the same polite compliments as always, and smiled the same social smiles as always. But his mind was elsewhere. He was thinking about how naturally Chloe had approached the piano, the confidence with which she had asked if she could sing, the purity of her improvised voice. Several guests commented on the special performance. Some people asked if he planned to include more spontaneous elements in his future performances. Nathan smiled and gave vague answers, but inside he was processing something much deeper. When the last guest finally left, Nathan remained seated at the piano. The mansion was quiet now, with only the distant sounds of Monica and other staff members clearing away the remnants of the party. He played a few loose chords, experimenting with the progressions he had improvised with Chloe. How had he managed to create that music? How long had it been since he had improvised? How long since he had allowed himself to stray from the safe script of his performances? Nathan. His mother's voice pulled him from his thoughts. Eleanor Carter approached the piano with her ever-erect posture, her dress still impeccable even after hours of hosting. "The party was a success," she said. "The Morrisons were very impressed with your performance of Chopin." Nathan just nodded, still fiddling with the keys. "But I must say," Eleanor continued, her tone growing colder, "that episode with the housekeeper's daughter was inappropriate." Nathan stopped playing and looked at his mother. "Inappropriate? You know what I'm talking about. Allowing a child to interrupt your performance, a staff member's child at that. People will talk." Nathan felt the irritation return, stronger this time. She just sang, "Mother." And people loved it. It's not about what she did, Nathan. It's about protocol, about maintaining proper boundaries. You are a Carter. You need to behave as such. Eleanor paused, softening her tone but maintaining her firmness. Our position in society depends on the respect we command. That includes maintaining certain distances. Eleanor walked away, leaving Nathan alone at the piano once more. Her words echoed in his mind along with the memory of Chloe's voice. Protocol, proper boundaries, behaving like a Carter. But when was the last time he had felt truly alive? When was the last time he had created something instead of just reproducing it? When was the last time he had played music that meant something? Nathan closed the piano lid and stood up. As he walked to his room, he couldn't get the simple question from a 5-year-old girl out of his head, "Can I sing with you?" For the first time in years, someone had asked to create music with him, not to impress guests or fulfill social obligations, just for the pure joy of making music. And Nathan discovered that he very much wanted her to ask again. Later that night, as he prepared for bed, Nathan stopped in front of his bedroom window. Outside, the city lights twinkled in the distance. Everything looked the same, but something inside him had changed. A child's voice had accomplished what years of musical education, formal performances, and social obligations could not. It had brought back the memory of why he had once loved to play the piano. And now, for the first time in a long time, Nathan Carter was curious to find out what would happen next. Nathan woke up earlier than usual. Not because of an alarm clock or an urgent business commitment, but because he simply couldn't stay asleep. His mind was restless, filled with memories of the previous night. Chloe's voice still echoed in his thoughts, along with the strange and comforting feeling of having created real music again. He got up and walked to the window. The morning sun filtered through the curtains, illuminating the mansion's manicured garden. It was an ordinary Tuesday, but Nathan felt that something had fundamentally changed in his routine. There was a different energy in the air, an expectation he couldn't explain. He went down for breakfast and found his mother already at the table, reading the newspaper with her usual elegance. Eleanor Carter always woke up early and followed a strict routine that rarely varied. "Good morning, Mother," Nathan said, pouring himself some coffee. "Good morning, dear," Eleanor replied without looking up from the paper. "I slept very well after the party. It truly was a success." Nathan nodded, distractedly stirring sugar into his coffee. His mind was elsewhere, wondering if Chloe would be at the mansion today, if Monica worked every day of the week. The girl's question kept echoing in his mind. "Can I sing again another day?" "I have an important meeting at 10 with the Japanese investors," Eleanor said, folding the newspaper. "You should be there. They were very impressed with you yesterday." "Of course," Nathan replied automatically, but his heart wasn't in those words. After breakfast, Nathan headed to his office as he always did, but this time he passed through the main hall. The piano was there, silent, waiting. The keys looked different in the morning light, as if they held the memory of the previous night's spontaneous music. He approached it and played a few soft chords, the same ones he had improvised with Chloe. He stopped and looked around. The mansion was in its normal morning cleaning routine. He could hear discreet movements, the sound of a vacuum cleaner in a distant room, light footsteps in the hallways. Monica must be working somewhere. Nathan felt a strange urge to look for her. He had no specific excuse, no official reason. He just wanted to check if Chloe was okay after the previous night, if she had enjoyed the experience, if she would like to do it again. He walked through the hallways, following the sounds of domestic activity. He found Monica in the library, organizing books and carefully dusting the shelves. She worked in silence, focused on her task. "Good morning, Monica," Nathan said, stopping at the door. Monica turned, a little surprised to see him there. "Good morning, Mr. Carter," she replied, giving a small curtsy. "I hope you enjoyed the party last night." "I enjoyed it very much." Nathan hesitated for a moment, "especially the special performance." A shy smile crossed Monica's face. "For Chloe is still talking about it. She woke up singing this morning, making up new songs about the party." "Is she here today?" "She is. My babysitter had a family emergency, so I had to bring her again. I hope it's not an inconvenience." "Not at all," Nathan replied quickly, perhaps too quickly. "Actually, I was wondering if she would like to sing again." "Just for a few minutes." Monica stopped cleaning and looked at Nathan with an expression of surprise and gratitude. "She would love that, Mr. Carter. But we don't want to interrupt your work." "It's not work," Nathan said, realizing he was being completely honest. "It's a pleasure." A few minutes later, Nathan was sitting at the piano in the main hall. His hands rested on the keys, but he wasn't playing yet. He was waiting, feeling a strange and pleasant anticipation, like a child waiting to open a gift. He heard light footsteps echoing down the hallway, and soon Chloe appeared at the entrance to the hall. Her blonde hair was in small braids with blue ribbons, and she wore a light blue dress that highlighted her crystal eyes. When she saw Nathan at the piano, her face lit up with a radiant smile that seemed capable of illuminating the entire room. "Piano man!" she exclaimed, running toward the instrument with skipping steps. "Mommy said you want me to sing again." Nathan smiled, a genuine smile that surprised even himself. "I do." "Do you want to sing with me?" "I do." Chloe clapped her hands with joy and stood beside the piano, just as she had the night before. "I made up a new song today. Want to hear it?" Nathan began to play a soft melody, different from the one he had played yesterday. Something new, created on the spot, inspired by the joy he saw on the little girl's face. Chloe was silent for a few moments, swaying slightly to the rhythm, absorbing the music. Then she began to sing, making up new lyrics about the sunny morning. "The sun woke up early today and came to play in my yard. The flowers opened their little eyes and said good morning just like this." But in the middle of the next verse, Chloe forgot the melody she was singing and stopped abruptly. Nathan expected her to feel embarrassed, but instead, she laughed at herself in a completely natural way. "Oops," she said, covering her mouth with her little hands. "I forgot how it went." "But that's okay." And without missing a beat, she started a completely different melody. I forgot, but it's okay. I'll make up a brand new song about a cat who lost his tail and found a brand new heart." The naturalness with which she handled the mistake fascinated Nathan. When was the last time he had allowed himself to make a mistake while playing? When was the last time he had improvised without fear of judgment? The way Chloe turned forgetfulness into a new musical adventure was something he had never experienced. He resumed his accompaniment, following the new direction Chloe had taken. The girl continued to invent verses about the tailless cat, laughing at her own creations, changing the subject whenever a new idea popped into her head. The cat found a butterfly who had lost its colors, she sang, and they became friends and flew away together. Nathan found himself adapting the harmony to match each new adventure. It was like playing jazz with a 5-year-old, where improvisation was the only rule. "Now I'm going to sing about a butterfly who wanted to be an elephant," she announced suddenly, jumping from one idea to another with the natural ease of childhood. Nathan laughed and completely changed the style of his accompaniment, creating something heavier and grander to match the new story. They played and sang for almost an hour. Chloe created stories about talking animals, colorful planets where it rained candy, and clouds that tickled the sun. Nathan discovered that his fingers responded to her creations almost intuitively, as if they were speaking a musical language he had forgotten he knew. "Do you know how to clap?" Chloe asked suddenly, stopping in the middle of a song about a fish that wanted to fly. "Of course," Nathan replied, a bit confused. "Then let's make a song just with claps." "It's more fun." Chloe began clapping in a simple but contagious rhythm, and Nathan found himself doing the same. Soon they were creating complex rhythmic patterns, with Chloe giggling in delight at every new variation Nathan introduced. She tried to imitate the more complicated rhythms he created, and when she couldn't, she made up her own. "Now I'll clap and you play," she said, breathless from laughing so much. Nathan returned to the piano, following the rhythm Chloe set with her small but determined claps. It was a completely new experience for him, following the rhythm of a 5-year-old. Letting her lead the music, abandoning any pretense of artistic control. "Faster!" Chloe shouted, speeding up her clapping. Nathan kept up, his fingers flying across the keys to follow the frantic pace she had set. When they finally stopped, they were both laughing and out of breath. "That was so much fun," Chloe said, still trying to catch her breath. "Can we do it again tomorrow?" "We can," Nathan replied without hesitation, surprised by his own certainty. And so began a routine that neither of them had planned. Every day that Chloe was at the mansion, she and Nathan would meet in the hall for their musical moments, as Chloe had named the sessions. Sometimes she would sing, inventing increasingly elaborate stories about fantasy worlds. Other times she would just clap, creating rhythms that Nathan would follow on the piano, turning the hall into an improvised percussion room. Occasionally, she would simply dance while he played, her free and spontaneous movements inspiring new melodies Nathan never thought he could create. Nathan discovered that these encounters had an unexpected and profound effect on his life. After playing with Chloe in the morning, he felt different for the rest of the day. More focused in the office, more creative in meetings, less irritated by the routine problems of the company. It was as if the girl's energy was contagious. It was as if Chloe's spontaneity and joy acted as a remedy for the rigidity that had settled into his life. After each musical session, Nathan felt he could breathe easier, think more clearly, and face the day's challenges with a lightness he had long since lost. On a Thursday, after a particularly lively session where Chloe had sung about a fish who wanted to learn to fly and found a school of clouds, Nathan went to an important meeting with international investors. Traditionally, these meetings left him tense and tired, but this time he surprised himself by proposing creative solutions that impressed everyone present. "Nathan, you're particularly inspired today," his partner commented after the meeting. "What's with the change? Do you have a new consultant working with us?" Nathan smiled, thinking of the image of Chloe clapping and singing about flying fish and schools of clouds. "I just found a new source of inspiration," he replied, without revealing that his consultant was 5 years old. On Friday, Chloe arrived with some news and a more serious expression than usual. "Today I'm going to teach you a song my mommy used to sing when she was little," she announced, positioning herself next to the piano. "It's a real song, not a made-up one." Nathan prepared to play, But Chloe interrupted him with a solemn gesture. "Wait, first, I need to explain the story of the song." She then told him, with all the seriousness a 5-year-old could muster, about a song her mother had learned from her grandmother, about a little girl who talked to the stars when she felt lonely. "The mommy said that when she sang this song, she felt less lonely," Chloe explained, her blue eyes gaining a depth unusual for her age. "Now I sing it when I miss my daddy who's in heaven." Nathan felt something tighten in his chest. It was the first time Chloe had mentioned her deceased father, and the simplicity with which she spoke of loss and longing touched a part of him he didn't know existed. "Can you teach me?" Nathan asked softly. Chloe began to sing a simple, sweet melody, clearly taught by Monica. It wasn't one of her usual improvisations, but a real song with defined lyrics and melody, filled with history and emotion. Nathan accompanied her carefully, paying attention to every note, every pause, every breath. Little star, please tell me true. Is Daddy okay up there in the blue? Little star, shine with your love, so I can feel that he is near me from above." When they finished, they were silent for a few moments. Nathan realized there were tears in his eyes, not of sadness, but of an emotion he couldn't name. "You play that song very beautifully," Chloe said softly. "I think the stars liked it. And I think my daddy heard it too." Nathan looked at her, at this little girl who had appeared in his life so unexpectedly and was changing everything without even realizing it. "Chloe," he said, "do you know you're teaching me very important things?" She looked at him with curiosity, tilting her head like a little bird. "I am? What things?" "You're reminding me what it's like to play with music, what it's like to have fun playing the piano, what it's like to truly feel." Chloe smiled, as if that were the most natural thing in the world. "Music is supposed to be fun," she said, "and for speaking from the heart. Otherwise, what's it for?" Nathan laughed, a genuine laugh that echoed through the empty hall. "You're right," he said. "You're always right." That afternoon, after Chloe had left with Monica, Nathan remained at the piano. He played some of the melodies they had created together during the week, letting his hands wander freely over the keys. He realized he no longer played mechanically. Every note had a purpose, every chord carried emotion. It was as if Chloe had brought the keys back to life, as if the instrument had regained its lost soul. When Eleanor appeared in the hall, Nathan was playing an elaborate version of the song Chloe had taught him about the little girl and the stars. "What music is that?" she asked. "I don't recognize it." "It's a new song," Nathan replied, not stopping his playing. "Something I learned recently." Eleanor watched her son play for a few minutes. There was something different in his posture, in his touch, a lightness she hadn't seen in years. "You seem different lately," she commented. "More alive." Nathan smiled, thinking of the musical moments with Chloe, the spontaneous laughter, the rhythmic clapping, the sung stories of impossible worlds. "Maybe I'm learning how to have fun again," he said. That night, Nathan went to sleep, feeling something he had forgotten existed, genuine anticipation for the next day. Not for work commitments or social obligations, but for the simple joy of creating music with a 5-year-old girl who saw magic where he had learned to see only technique. Chloe had brought life back to the notes of the piano, but more than that, she had brought life back to a part of Nathan he thought he had lost forever. And for the first time in years, he was eager to discover what new musical adventure the next day would bring. The spontaneity of a child was restoring lightness to his life, one clap at a time, one made-up song at a time, one genuine smile at a time. Eleanor Carter had always made it a habit to observe. It was a trait she had developed over the years as the family matriarch, a need to maintain control over everything that happened in her house. Nothing escaped her watchful eyes, especially when it came to her son, Nathan. In recent days, she had noticed changes, small things at first. Nathan waking up earlier, a lightness in his step, genuine smiles during breakfast. Changes that might have gone unnoticed by anyone else, but not by Eleanor. On Thursday morning, while reviewing correspondence in her office, Eleanor heard something unusual. Music coming from the main hall, but not the formal music Nathan usually played. It was something different, spontaneous, joyful, alive, and there was laughter. A child's laughter echoing through the mansion's corridors. Eleanor set her papers aside and went discreetly to the hall. She stopped at the entrance, hidden behind a marble column, and observed a scene that left her deeply disturbed. Nathan was at the piano, but he wasn't playing as he usually did. His movements were loose, natural, and he was smiling as he accompanied the high-pitched voice of a child. The housekeeper's daughter, Chloe, was next to the piano, singing a children's song about colorful butterflies. Eleanor watched for several minutes, seeing Nathan laugh at the girl's spontaneous creations, seeing him improvise melodies to accompany her made-up stories. It was a musical intimacy she had never witnessed, a lightness she hadn't seen in her son for years. But instead of joy, Eleanor felt a growing unease. This wasn't right. It wasn't appropriate. Nathan was a Carter. He had responsibilities, a social position to maintain. And there he was, playing like an ordinary child with an employee's daughter. When the musical session ended and Chloe ran off, Eleanor remained hidden, watching Nathan. He stayed at the piano, softly playing the melodies he had created with the girl, a gentle smile on his face. Eleanor felt a tightness in her chest. It was the feeling that she was losing control, that her son was straying from the path laid out for him. During lunch, Eleanor observed Nathan discreetly. He seemed lighter, more present, showing an interest in life that she hadn't seen in a long time. In other circumstances, she would have been happy with the change. But knowing the cause, "You've been very cheerful lately," Eleanor commented, cutting her salmon. "I've been feeling good," Nathan replied, without revealing any details. "And how is business?" The Morrisons asked about the European expansion. Nathan gave a competent answer, but Eleanor could tell his heart wasn't in it. It was probably on the next musical session with that child. On Friday morning, Eleanor decided to observe more closely. She positioned herself in the hallway and waited. It wasn't long before she heard Chloe's excited footsteps, followed by Nathan's affectionate voice. "Good morning, Chloe. What song are we going to make up today?" The familiarity in Nathan's tone shocked Eleanor. It was a voice she hadn't heard in years, warm, genuine, without the layers of formality he had developed. Eleanor approached silently and watched through the doorway. Nathan was kneeling to be at Chloe's level, listening intently as she told him about a dream she had with singing birds. "Can we make a song about that?" Chloe asked, her eyes shining. "Of course we can," Nathan replied, heading to the piano with an energy Eleanor hadn't seen in decades. Eleanor watched for half an hour, seeing her son create spontaneous music with a 5-year-old child. She saw him laugh, improvise, play. She saw him be genuinely happy, and that deeply disturbed her. It wasn't Nathan's happiness that bothered her. It was the inappropriateness of the situation. People in their social circle were already talking about the episode at the party. If they knew this had become a routine, Eleanor remembered Mrs. Pemberton's words at the club. "I heard Nathan allowed an employee's daughter to sing at his party. How unusual." The tone had made it clear that unusual was not a compliment. In the afternoon, when Nathan returned from his meetings, Eleanor decided it was time for a serious talk. She found him in the hall, playing the piano, once again, those spontaneous melodies he had created with the child. "Nathan," she said, entering with her usual erect posture. Nathan stopped playing and turned around. "Hi, Mother. How was your day?" "We need to talk," Eleanor said, her tone more formal than usual. Nathan watched her with curiosity but gestured for her to sit. Eleanor remained standing, her hands clasped. "I've been observing your recent activities," she began carefully. Nathan frowned. "What activities?" "Your musical sessions with the housekeeper's daughter." Nathan's expression hardened slightly. "And what's the problem?" Eleanor sighed, as if she were dealing with a stubborn child. "Nathan, you are wasting your time with this girl. It is not appropriate." The words came out harsher than Eleanor had intended, but she didn't take them back. Nathan stared at her for a long moment, and she saw something in his eyes extinguish. "Wasting my time," Nathan repeated slowly. "You are a Carter," Eleanor continued. You have responsibilities, a company to run, a social position to uphold. You can't be playing at making music with an employee's daughter as if you were an ordinary child. Nathan didn't answer immediately. He just looked at her, and Eleanor saw a deep sadness that made her uncomfortable. "People are talking, Nathan," she went on. "Mrs. Pemberton has already asked indirect questions. The Morrisons mentioned irregularities in our household." "Irregularities," Nathan repeated, his voice flat. Allowing her to sing at the party was one thing that can be explained away as generosity, but turning it into a routine, it's unthinkable. Eleanor paused, observing Nathan's closed-off face. "Besides, you're creating unrealistic expectations in the child. You're giving her access that doesn't correspond to her social position. It's not fair to her or her mother." Nathan finally spoke, his voice low and controlled. "Are you finished?" The coldness in his tone surprised Eleanor. She had expected resistance, arguments, but not this distant coldness. "Nathan, I'm trying to protect you, to protect our family. Don't you understand that this could affect your reputation, your business?" "I understand perfectly what you're saying, Mother," Nathan replied, getting up from the bench. "I understand that you see a 5-year-old child as a threat to our social standing." "It's not about the child," Eleanor said quickly. It's about propriety, about appropriate boundaries." Nathan looked at her for a moment longer, and Eleanor saw a sadness in his eyes that made her question, just for an instant, if she was doing the right thing. "Excuse me," Nathan said finally, "I have work to do." He left the hall without another word, leaving Eleanor alone. She stood there for several minutes, looking at the silent piano, feeling that she had won the argument but lost something more important. That night at dinner, Nathan behaved with the polite formality Eleanor knew well. He answered questions about business, commented on the news, and maintained civil conversation. But the lightness she had noticed in recent days was completely gone. Eleanor realized she had gotten what she wanted. Nathan was behaving like a carter again. But seeing him so distant, so formally polite, she wondered if the price hadn't been too high. The family judgment had been passed, and the threat to the friendship was planted. Now it remained to be seen if Nathan would obey the expectations of generations. 2 days had passed since the conversation with his mother, and Nathan felt the weight of Eleanor's words echoing in his mind. He had tried to keep his distance, fulfilling his business obligations with his usual dedication, but something inside him had irrevocably changed. The spontaneous music he had discovered with Chloe couldn't simply be erased. On Monday morning, Nathan came down for breakfast later than usual. He had spent the previous night lying in bed, thinking about the conversation with Eleanor, about the harsh words like wasting time and inappropriate. But he also thought about Chloe's laughter, the purity of her voice, the genuine joy they had shared at the piano. When he reached the main hall, he stopped in surprise. Chloe was sitting on the floor near the piano, with some papers scattered around her. She was drawing intently with colored crayons, completely absorbed in her creation. "Good morning, Chloe," Nathan said softly, trying not to startle her. She looked up, and her face lit up with that radiant smile Nathan had come to expect. "Say it, piano man," she exclaimed, but then her expression became a little more timid. "Mommy said you've been very busy with important work." Nathan felt a pang in his chest. Monica had probably noticed his absence over the past few days and had explained it to Chloe in the kindest way possible. "It's true, I've had a lot of work," Nathan said, kneeling to her level. "But I always have time for you. What are you drawing?" Chloe's eyes sparkled again, and she held up the paper to show him. It was a typical drawing for a 5-year-old, stick figures, vibrant colors spread without much technical skill, but full of life and imagination. "It's you playing the piano," she said proudly, "and I'm singing right here beside you. See? These are the musical notes flying in the air." Nathan looked at the drawing more closely. There were indeed 2 figures, a larger one sitting at something that could be a piano, and a smaller one beside it. And scattered across the paper were little circles and scribbles that Chloe had identified as musical notes. "It's very beautiful," Nathan said, genuinely touched. "Can I sit here with you?" "You can." Chloe patted the floor beside her. "I brought extra paper. You can draw too." Nathan sat on the marble floor, something he hadn't done in decades. It felt strange to be there, a 32-year-old man sitting on the floor like a child, but it was also comforting in a way he couldn't explain. Chloe handed him a sheet of paper and some crayons. "What should I draw?" Nathan asked, genuinely clueless. "Draw what you love most," Chloe said, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. Nathan picked up a blue crayon and started to sketch without much thought. His hands, accustomed to the technical precision of the piano, felt clumsy with the thick crayon. But there was something liberating about making movements without the need for perfection. "You draw funny," Chloe observed, looking at Nathan's hesitant lines. "It's been a long time since I've drawn," he admitted. "Why?" she asked, with the natural curiosity of childhood. Nathan stopped drawing for a moment, thinking about the answer. "When we grow up, sometimes we stop doing things we loved when we were kids." "That's silly," Chloe declared with the authority of a 5-year-old expert. "If you like it, you should keep doing it." The simplicity of the childish logic made Nathan smile. "You're right," he said. They continued drawing in silence for a few minutes. Nathan found himself creating abstract shapes, letting the crayon wander across the page without worrying about the result. It was a strange and freeing experience. "Piano man," Chloe said suddenly, without looking up from her drawing. "When I grow up, I want to be a singer. I want to sing like a little bird." The statement was made with such naturalness, such certainty, that Nathan stopped drawing and looked at her. Chloe continued coloring her paper, completely focused, as if she had just commented on the weather. "A singer," Nathan repeated softly. "Yep." Chloe looked up, her blue eyes shining with dreams. "I want to get on a stage and sing beautiful songs for people, and I want them to be happy like I am when I sing." Nathan felt something tighten in his chest, the purity of that dream, the certainty with which she expressed it, the way she saw music as something that should spread happiness. That's a very beautiful dream," he said, his voice coming out more emotional than he intended. "And you?" Chloe asked, tilting her head. "What's your dream?" The question caught Nathan off guard. When was the last time someone had asked him about his dreams? When was the last time he himself had thought about his own dreams? Nathan hesitated, searching for words. "I used to dream about music too." "Used to?" Chloe frowned. "And you don't dream anymore?" Nathan looked at his own hands, then at the silent piano. "When I was little, like you, I loved playing the piano. I dreamed of being a musician, of creating beautiful songs, of playing for people and making them happy, just like you said." "And what happened?" Chloe asked, putting her crayon aside and giving Nathan her full attention. "I grew up," Nathan said simply. "I had to take on responsibilities, the family business, social commitments, expectations. Music became just a hobby, then a social obligation, until I stopped feeling joy when I played." Chloe watched him with those deep blue eyes, processing his words with the seriousness that children sometimes show. "But you feel joy when you play with me," she said, as if it were a scientific fact. Nathan blinked, surprised by the observation. "I do," he admitted. "When I play with you, I remember what it was like to truly love music." "Then you didn't lose your dream," Chloe declared. "It was just sleeping, like Sleeping Beauty." The comparison made Nathan laugh, but there was a profound truth in those childish words. "Maybe you're right," he said. "I am," Chloe clapped her hands. "And you know why? Because when you play with me, your eyes get sparkly just like mine do when I sing." Nathan felt tears sting his eyes. How could a 5-year-old see something he had taken years to realize? "Chloe," he said softly, "do you know you're very special?" "Mommy always says so," she replied with a smile. "But you're special too. You make the piano really sing." Nathan looked at the piano, then at Chloe, then at the drawings scattered on the floor. There he was, a successful businessman, sitting on the floor, drawing with crayons and talking about dreams with a little girl. And he felt more alive than he had in years. "You know what?" Nathan said, picking up a green crayon and going back to his drawing. "What?" "I think you helped me wake up my dream, like you said, just like Sleeping Beauty." Chloe giggled with delight. "So now you're going to dream about music again?" Nathan stopped drawing and looked at her. The question was simple, but it carried a weight she couldn't comprehend. To dream again would mean challenging expectations, confronting social pressures, perhaps disappointing people. But looking into those blue eyes full of hope and purity, Nathan felt something reignite within him. Not just the love for music, but the courage to pursue something that made him genuinely happy. "Yes?" he said, and this time his voice came out firm and certain. "I'm going to dream about music again." "Yay!" Chloe clapped her hands again. "And when I'm a famous singer, you can play the piano for me." "It would be an honor," Nathan said, smiling. They returned to their drawings, but now there was something different in the air. Nathan felt as if a part of himself that had been buried for years was finally breathing again. Chloe's childlike view of dreams and music had rekindled in him not only a love for the art, but a belief that it was possible to live authentically. When Monica appeared in the hall looking for Chloe, she found them both sitting on the floor, surrounded by colorful drawings, talking excitedly about music and dreams. "I'm sorry, Mr. Carter," Monica said. "Chloe disappeared and I—" "Don't worry," Nathan said, standing up and helping Chloe gather the drawings. "We were just rediscovering some important things." Chloe ran to her mother with her drawings. "Mommy, look, the piano man drew with me, and he's going to dream about music again." Monica looked at Nathan with an expression of gratitude and curiosity. "Your daughter," Nathan said, "has a special gift for reminding people who they really are." As mother and daughter walked away, Nathan remained in the hall, looking at the piano. Eleanor's words still echoed in his mind, but now they were confronted by something stronger, the certainty that he had rediscovered an essential part of himself. Chloe's childlike view of dreams and music had reawakened what he had lost, and for the first time in years, Nathan Carter was ready to fight for it. Eleanor Carter woke up on Tuesday with a steely determination. The conversation she'd had with Nathan a few days ago had clearly not had the desired effect. In the morning, she had passed by the hall and once again seen the remnants of the cow's artistic sessions, drawing papers scattered about, forgotten crayons, the piano lid open as if waiting for small hands and curious fingers. She could not allow this to continue. Nathan was losing focus, drifting from his responsibilities, and all because of a child who had no place in their lives. Eleanor had tried the gentle approach, speaking directly to her son. Now it was time to solve the problem at its source. At 9 in the morning, while Nathan was in a meeting with investors at the company office, Eleanor summoned Monica to her private study. It was a formal room, decorated with antique furniture and family portraits, where Eleanor usually met with employees when there were serious matters to discuss. Monica appeared a few minutes later, visibly nervous. She was holding a cleaning cloth, and there was a smudge from cleaning products on her simple apron. Eleanor noticed the woman's hands were trembling slightly. "Sit down, Monica," Eleanor said, pointing to the chair in front of her desk. Monica hesitated for a moment. "I'd rather stand, Mrs. Carter. I'm in my work uniform." "I said sit down," Eleanor repeated, her voice firmer. Monica obeyed, perching on the edge of the chair, clearly uncomfortable. Eleanor watched her for a moment, studying the woman who had worked in her house for 3 years. Monica was competent, discreet, and had never caused any trouble. Until now. "Monica," Eleanor began, lacing her fingers on the desk. "How long have you worked here?" 3 years, Mrs. Carter," Monica answered quickly. 3 years, Eleanor repeated. "And during that time, you have always been an exemplary employee, punctual, efficient, discreet. Exactly what we expect from our staff." Monica nodded, but Eleanor could see the tension building in her shoulders. "Which is why this conversation is particularly disappointing for me," Eleanor continued, her voice taking on a colder edge. Did I do something wrong, Mrs. Carter?" Monica asked, her voice almost a whisper. Eleanor stood up and walked to the window, turning her back on Monica. It was a technique she had learned over the years. Leaving the person in suspense heightened the tension and made the subsequent words more impactful. "You have a daughter," Eleanor said, still looking out the window. Yes, Mom, Chloe, she's 5. 5 years old, Eleanor repeated. An age when children don't yet understand social boundaries, do they? When they believe they can do anything, talk to anyone, enter any room. Monica didn't answer, but Eleanor could feel the tension filling the silence. The problem, Monica, Eleanor continued, turning to face the housekeeper, is when the adults responsible for these children don't establish the proper boundaries. I always try to keep Chloe quiet when I have to bring her, Monica said quickly. She never gets in the way of my work, I promise. She doesn't get in the way of your work, Eleanor repeated slowly. But she is getting in the way of other things. Eleanor returned to her chair and sat down, fixing her eyes on Monica with an intensity that made the woman flinch slightly. I'll be direct, Monica. Your daughter has been creating an inappropriate situation with my son. Monica's eyes widened. I don't understand, Mrs. Carter. Chloe is just a child. Exactly. The child who doesn't know her place? And apparently you don't know it either. Eleanor opened a drawer and took out an envelope, placing it on the desk. Inside this envelope is a letter of reference and severance pay equivalent to 3 months' salary, she said calmly. You can take it now and leave, or you can listen to what I have to say and continue working here. Monica stared at the envelope as if it were a snake ready to strike. I'd rather listen, Mrs. Carter, she said, her voice trembling. A wise decision, Eleanor said. Here are the new terms of your employment. Your daughter is no longer allowed at the mansion. Under any circumstances. It doesn't matter if your babysitter is sick, if you have no one to leave her with, if it's a school holiday. Your daughter is not to set foot on this property again. Monica turned visibly pale. But Mrs. Carter, sometimes I truly have no other option. Then you find another option, Eleanor cut in. Or you take the envelope. Eleanor stood up again, walking around the desk until she stood beside Monica. I will explain the situation so there are no misunderstandings, she said, her voice low but piercing. My son is going through a, let's say, nostalgic phase. He is romanticizing certain things, losing focus on what truly matters. And your daughter, unintentionally, is feeding this fantasy. Monica looked up, meeting Eleanor's cold eyes. He is a grown man with enormous responsibilities, a company, employees, social obligations. He cannot be playing at making music with a child as if he were an ordinary person. Mrs. Carter, Monica said timidly. Chloe just wanted to sing. She didn't do anything wrong. I'm not saying she did anything wrong consciously, Eleanor replied. I'm saying her presence here is causing a distraction that I can no longer tolerate. Eleanor returned to her chair, picked up a pen, and began to fiddle with it distractedly. Nathan needs to focus on his future, on his career, on finding a suitable wife from his own social class. He cannot be wasting time with childish musical fantasies. But they were only playing the piano together, Monica murmured. It was just music, Eleanor repeated with a cold smile. Monica, you really don't understand, do you? It's not about music, it's about propriety. It's about boundaries. It's about keeping everyone in their proper place. Eleanor leaned forward, resting her elbows on the desk. Your daughter is a lovely child, I'm sure, but she does not belong in Nathan's world. And the longer she spends here, the harder it will be for her to understand that when she's older. Monica began, but Eleanor interrupted her. Let me be even clearer, Eleanor said, her voice taking on a hardness that made Monica shrink. If I see your daughter on this property again, for any reason, you will be fired immediately. No references, no severance, no explanations. Eleanor paused, letting the words sink in. And I can assure you it will be very difficult for you to find another job in any respectable household in this city. Our social network is small, Monica. People talk. Monica was visibly trembling now, her hands clutching the cleaning cloth as if it were a lifeline. Do you understand what I'm saying? Eleanor asked. Yes, Mrs. Carter, Monica whispered. Good. And so there are no temptations. I am increasing your salary by 20%. Consider it an incentive to find permanent arrangements for your daughter during your work hours. Eleanor stood up, indicating the conversation was over. "You are a good employee, Monica. It would be a shame to lose you over a situation that can be easily resolved." Monica stood as well, her legs clearly unsteady. "Yes, Mrs. Carter, I understand. Chloe will not come here again." "Excellent," Eleanor said, sitting back down. "You may return to your work now." Monica headed for the door but stopped when Eleanor spoke again. "Oh, Monica, if Nathan asks about your daughter, you are to say she's attending regular extracurricular activities, music, dance, whatever. Something to justify her permanent absence." "Yes, Mrs. Carter," Monica said, her voice barely audible. "And Monica," Eleanor called one last time, "this conversation stays between us." Entirely between us. After Monica left, Eleanor remained in her study for several minutes, feeling a mix of satisfaction and something that might have been guilt, but she quickly suppressed it. She had done what was necessary. She had protected Nathan's future, even if he couldn't see it at the moment. 2 days later, Nathan noticed the absence. On Thursday morning, he came downstairs expecting to find Chloe in the hall, as had become their habit, but he found only silence. The piano was closed. There were no drawing papers scattered about, no forgotten crayons. Nathan waited for an hour, then looked for Monica around the mansion. When he found her cleaning the library, he asked casually about Chloe. "Is she all right?" he asked. "I haven't seen her in a few days." Monica avoided his gaze, focusing intently on the bookshelf she was dusting. She started some activities at school. Mr. Carter, music, dance. She's there all day now." "Oh," Nathan said, feeling a strange pang of disappointment. "That's good for her." "Music is important." Monica just nodded, still not looking at him. On Friday, Nathan went to the piano in the morning, hoping that perhaps Chloe might appear. But again, only silence. He sat at the bench and placed his hands on the keys, but for a few minutes, he couldn't play anything. When he finally pressed the first keys, the sound that came out seemed empty, mechanical. It was the same sound as before, technically correct, but soulless. Nathan tried to play one of the melodies he had created with Chloe, but without her childish voice accompanying him, the music seemed incomplete, purposeless. On Saturday, Nathan spent the entire morning trying to play. He tried classical pieces. He tried to improvise. He even tried singing the songs Chloe had made up by himself. But nothing worked. It was as if the magic had simply vanished. He realized, with painful clarity, that he had returned to his previous state. The piano was once again just an object, the notes just technical sounds without emotion. For a few precious days, he had rediscovered what it meant to create real music, to feel genuine joy in playing, and now that was gone. Nathan got up from the piano and walked to the hall window. Outside, the garden was perfect as always, but it seemed lifeless. Everything seemed lifeless again. It was then that he fully understood what Eleanor had said about living on autopilot. For the past few months, before Chloe appeared, he had indeed been functioning like a machine. Wake up, work, fulfill social obligations, sleep, repeat. There was no passion, no joy, no real purpose beyond keeping up appearances and meeting expectations. Chloe had been the one thing that had pulled him out of that inertia. Her presence, her spontaneity, her pure vision of music had awakened parts of him he thought were dead. For a few days, he had felt alive again, and now, with her gone, the emptiness had returned with full force. Not just the absence of music, Marapux, but the absence of purpose, of joy, of authenticity. Nathan realized he had gone back to being the person he was before, functioning but not living. That night at dinner, Eleanor commented on how he seemed more focused lately. "You're back to behaving like the Nathan I know," she said with approval. "Cass more serious, more dedicated to important business." Nathan just nodded, but inside he felt an emptiness that seemed to grow with each passing day. Eleanor had gotten what she wanted. He was once again behaving as a Carter should, but the price had been the only source of genuine joy he had found in years. The following Monday, Nathan tried once more to play the piano, but after a few minutes he gave up. The instrument had gone back to being just expensive furniture, a social obligation, a soulless status symbol. The bond had been forcibly broken, and Nathan felt as if an essential part of himself had been amputated. The emotional reversal was complete. The emptiness had returned deeper than before, because now he knew exactly what he was missing. 5 days had passed since Nathan had noticed Chloe's absence, and the feeling of emptiness only grew. He had tried to maintain his normal routine, business meetings, formal dinners with Eleanor, playing the piano in the mornings, but everything felt devoid of meaning. It was as if the color had been drained from his life, leaving only shades of gray. On Thursday afternoon, after a particularly tedious meeting about market expansion, Nathan found himself standing in the hall, staring at the closed piano. A week ago, that space had been filled with a child's laughter, improvised songs, and the infectious joy of a little girl who saw magic where he had learned to see only obligation. He could no longer pretend that everything was fine. He could no longer accept Monica's vague excuses about school activities. Something was wrong, and he needed to find out what. Nathan headed to the kitchen, where he knew he would find Monica finishing her tasks for the day. She was washing the lunch dishes, her movements mechanical and precise. When she saw him, her shoulders visibly tensed. "Monica," Nathan said softly, "I need to speak with you." She didn't turn around, continuing to scrub a plate with more force than necessary. "Yes, Mr. Carter." "It's about Chloe," Nathan said, watching as she stopped moving completely. "I haven't seen her in a week." "I'm worried." Monica remained with her back to him, but Nathan could see the tension in every line of her body. "I've already explained, Mr. Carter. She has activities at school." "Monica," Nathan interrupted gently. "Look at me." She turned around slowly, and Nathan was shocked by what he saw. There were tears in her eyes and a deep sadness he had never noticed before. "What happened?" he asked, his voice filled with genuine concern. Monica opened her mouth as if to speak, then closed it again. Her hands were trembling slightly. I can't," she murmured. Nathan took a step closer. "Monica, if something is wrong, you can tell me. If Chloe is sick, if you need help, she's at home," Monica said suddenly, the words tumbling out in a desperate whisper. "She's had the flu for 3 days, and I can't bring her here anymore." "Why not?" Nathan asked, frowning. Monica glanced around nervously, as if afraid someone might be listening. "I can't talk about it, Mr. Carter." "Please, don't ask me." Nathan studied her face, seeing the conflict in her eyes. There was fear there, but also a sadness that went beyond concern for a sick daughter. "Monica," he said calmly, "what's your home address?" She looked at him in surprise. "Mr. Carter, I want to visit Chloe. If she's sick, I'd like to see how she's doing." "No." The answer came out louder than Monica intended. "I mean, that's not necessary, Mr. Carter. She'll be fine." But Nathan had already made his decision. Something was going on, something Monica couldn't or wouldn't tell him, and he wouldn't be able to rest until he found out what it was. "Monica, give me your address," he said firmly. "Please." Monica looked at him for a long moment, an internal battle clearly raging in her mind. Finally, with resignation, she whispered an address in a more modest part of the city. An hour later, Nathan was driving through the narrow streets of a neighborhood he had never visited. The houses were small, well-kept, but simple, a far cry from the grandeur of the Carter mansion. He pulled up in front of a small, light blue house with a little porch and a tiny but well-tended garden. Nathan hesitated for a moment before knocking on the door. He wasn't sure what he was doing there, what excuse he would give for the visit. He only knew he needed to see Chloe, to make sure she was okay. Monica opened the door, and her expression cycled through a series of emotions: surprise, fear, resignation. "Mr. Carter," she said, her voice almost a whisper. "What? How? May I come in?" Nathan asked. "I want to see how Chloe is." Monica glanced nervously behind her, then stepped aside to let him pass. The house was small but cozy, simple furniture, but everything was clean and tidy. On the walls were framed children's drawings, unmistakably Chloe's artistic work. "She's in her room," Monica said, pointing to a partially open door. "She's not feeling well." Nathan went to the room and stopped at the door. Chloe was lying in a small bed covered with a colorful blanket. Her blonde hair was messy, and she looked smaller and more fragile than he remembered. When she saw him, her blue eyes widened in surprise. "Piano man," she said, her voice hoarse and weak. "Dan, what are you doing here?" Nathan entered the room and knelt beside the bed. "I came to see how you are," he said softly. "Monica told me you have the flu." Chloe nodded, but Nathan noticed there was something beyond physical illness in her eyes. There was a sadness that shouldn't exist on the face of a 5-year-old. "Are you feeling better?" he asked. "I think so," Chloe said, but her voice lacked its usual cheerfulness. "Mommy is taking care of me." Nathan looked around the small room. There were more drawings on the walls, and on a small table beside the bed, he saw a few sheets of paper with musical notes drawn on them. Clearly Chloe's attempts to reproduce music on paper. "I see you're still drawing music," Nathan said, pointing to the papers. Chloe's face changed immediately, and she turned her head to the wall. "I don't draw anymore," she said, her voice growing even sadder. "Why not?" Nathan asked, surprised. Chloe was silent for a long moment. Then, with the brutal honesty only children possess, she said, "Mommy said dreaming too much hurts, so I'm not going to sing anymore." The words hit Nathan like a punch to the gut. He looked at the little girl, saw how she had curled up under the blanket, as if trying to hide from the world. "Chloe," he said softly, "who said that dreaming hurts?" "Mommy," Chloe replied, still not looking at him. "She said that when we dream about things we can't have, we get sad. And that I can't go to your house anymore, so I can't sing with you anymore, so it's better if I don't dream of being a singer." Nathan felt a rage build in his chest, but it wasn't directed at the child, or even at Monica. It was a rage directed at the entire system that had created this situation, that had forced a mother to destroy her own daughter's dreams to protect her. He heard footsteps behind him and turned. Monica was standing in the doorway, tears streaming down her face. "Monica," Nathan said, standing up, "can we talk?" They left the room, leaving the door ajar so they could see Chloe. Monica sat on the small living room sofa, wiping her eyes with her hands. "Tell me what happened," Nathan said, sitting beside her. Monica looked at him, and Nathan saw all the pain of the last few days in her eyes. "Your mother," she said finally. "She called me into her office last week." Nathan felt his stomach clench. "What did she say?" "That Chloe couldn't come to the mansion anymore, that if I brought her again I would lose my job, and that it would be hard to find another job if she spread the word that I didn't respect proper boundaries." Nathan closed his eyes, feeling a mix of anger and shame. "Monica, I didn't know." "I know you didn't," Monica said quickly, "but I couldn't tell you. I need this job, Mr. Carter. It's just me and Chloe. If I lose my job—" "I understand," Nathan said. "But why did you tell Chloe that dreaming hurts?" Monica lowered her head, more tears falling. "Because I didn't know how to explain to a 5-year-old why she could no longer do the one thing that made her truly happy," she said, her voice breaking. "Because I didn't understand myself how something so pure and innocent could be seen as inappropriate." Monica paused, taking a deep breath. "And because," she continued, her voice dropping even lower, "because I recognized the situation, because I went through the same thing." Nathan looked at her, confused. "What do you mean?" Monica wiped her eyes and looked at him. "When I was young, before I got married, I dreamed of singing too," she said. "See, I sang in church mug at small local events. I had a good voice, people said. I dreamed that maybe one day, well, of being more than just a domestic worker." Nathan leaned forward, giving her his full attention. "But when I got married, my husband said it wasn't appropriate for a wife, that I had more important responsibilities. And after Chloe was born, and especially after he passed away, well, there was no more time for dreams." Monica glanced toward the room where Chloe was. "When I saw Chloe singing with you, when I saw how she lit up making music, It was like seeing myself 20 years ago. And when your mother told me it had to stop, it was like history was repeating itself. Nathan felt something break inside him. It wasn't just about Chloe, it was about Monica, too. It was about how many people had been forced to give up their dreams because someone else had decided they were inappropriate. "Monica," he said, his voice firm, "do you still sing?" She shook her head. "There's no reason to sing when there's no one to listen." "Chloe listens," Nathan said. "Not anymore," Monica replied sadly. "I told her dreaming too much hurts, remember? Now she doesn't even want me to sing to her." Nathan stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the narrow street. His mind was racing, processing everything he had learned. His mother had deliberately destroyed not only the friendship between him and Chloe, but had forced a child to abandon her dreams before she even had a chance to pursue them. And she had used economic fear to force Monica to be complicit in the destruction of her own daughter's dreams. Nathan turned to Monica. "This isn't going to happen," he said, his voice filled with determination. "Mr. Carter, Chloe is not going to repeat your story. She is not going to abandon her dreams because someone decided they are inappropriate." Nathan went back to Chloe's room. The girl was still turned to the wall, curled up under the blanket. "Chloe," he said softly. She slowly turned to look at him. "Do you still want to be a singer?" Nathan asked. Chloe's eyes filled with tears. "Mommy said I can't." "What if I say you can?" Nathan asked. "What if I promise that I'll help you follow your dream?" Chloe looked at him with those enormous blue eyes, full of cautious hope. "But you can't play with me anymore," she said. "Mommy said you're too important and I'm just a little kid." Nathan felt his determination strengthen even more. "Chloe, I'm going to make you a promise," he said, kneeling by the bed again. "I will find a way for you to keep singing. I will find a place where you can learn real music, with teachers who will teach you to sing even better." "But Mommy said—" "Your mommy was trying to protect you," Nathan said. "But sometimes adults make mistakes when they try to protect children. Sometimes they protect them so much that they end up hurting them." Nathan glanced over his shoulder at Monica, who had appeared in the doorway. "Monica," he said, "can I speak with you in the living room?" They returned to the living room, and Nathan turned to face Monica. "I'm going to enroll Chloe in a children's music school," he said. "Her good school with qualified teachers. I'll pay for all the tuition, materials, everything that's needed." Monica looked at him in shock. "Mr. Carter, I can't accept—" "It's not charity," Nathan said firmly. "It's justice. It's correcting a wrong that my family committed." "But your mother—" "My mother doesn't need to know. At least, not at first. And when she does find out, it will be presented as a done deal." Nathan walked over to Monica and took her hands. "Monica, I understand why you did what you did. You were protecting your daughter the only way you knew how. But we can't let her grow up believing that dreams hurt." Monica started to cry again. "But what about my job? What if your mother finds out?" "Your job is safe," Nathan said. "I guarantee it. And if necessary, I will find you another job, one where you don't have to choose between supporting your daughter and nurturing her dreams." Nathan paused, looking into Monica's eyes. "And maybe," he said softly, "it's time for you to start singing again, too." Monica looked at him in surprise. "Me? Why not? Chloe can learn about formal music at school, but she can also learn about passion and love for music from you, if you want." From the bedroom, they heard Chloe's weak voice. "Mommy, piano man. Can I sing just a little bit?" Nathan and Monica looked at each other, and for the first time in days, Monica smiled. "You can, my love," she said. "You can sing as much as you want." And then, from the small bedroom, came a child's voice, still hoarse from the flu but filled with hope. "Little bird flies high, high in the blue sky. He sings a little song that makes my heart shine." Nathan felt tears sting his eyes. The melody Chloe had created the first time they sang together was still there, preserved in her memory and her heart. "Nathan," Monica said softly, "thank you." "No," Nathan replied. "Thank you. You two have taught me something I had forgotten, that dreams don't hurt. What hurts is giving up on them. In that moment, in the small apartment, Nathan did more than promise to enroll Chloe in a music school. He promised himself that he would not let the world destroy any more dreams because of social propriety. The child's dream was about to take shape, and Nathan was determined to ensure that this time it would be different. 3 weeks had passed since Nathan had enrolled Chloe in the Harmony Children's Music School. It was a small but respected institution specializing in music education for children. Nathan had chosen it carefully, visiting several schools until he found one that valued both technique and the natural creativity of children. Now, after several lessons, Chloe had transformed. Her initial shyness had given way to a growing confidence, and she came home every week with new things to show. On a Thursday afternoon, Nathan was in his office when he received a call from Monica. "Mr. Carter," she said, her voice filled with joy. "Chloe is desperate to show you what she learned today. She said she won't go to sleep until she sings for you." Nathan smiled, closing the financial report he was reviewing. "I'll be there in 20 minutes, he said. The routine had established itself naturally. After her music lessons, Chloe would go home with Monica, and at the end of the afternoon, Nathan would stop by to see what she had learned. They were meetings he had come to value more than any business meeting. When he arrived at Monica's house, Chloe ran to greet him at the door, her blonde curls bouncing with excitement. "Nathan, I learned a new song today, and Miss Sarah said I have a very good sense of rhythm for a 5-year-old. That's great. Can you show me?" "I can. But first, you have to see my drawings." Chloe pulled him by the hand to the small living room table, where several papers were spread out. Nathan knelt to examine the drawings and was impressed by her progress. They were no longer just colorful scribbles. There were circles organized in lines, representing musical notes. Some had stems drawn up, others down. There were even attempts at drawing treble clefs, though they were still a bit crooked. "Miss Sarah taught me how to draw the notes," Chloe explained proudly. "Look, this is a whole note. That sings for a long time. And this one here is a quick note that sings super fast." Nathan picked up one of the drawings and studying it carefully. "This is incredible, Chloe. You're learning to write music." "I am. And look at this one." She picked up another paper where she had drawn a sequence of notes in different colors. Each color is a different pitch. Red is low, blue is high, green is in the middle. Nathan looked at Monica, who was watching her daughter with a radiant smile. "She's soaking everything up like a sponge," Monica said. The teacher said she's never seen a child so interested in understanding how music works. "And now I'm going to sing," Chloe announced. "But I need the piano to accompany me." "We don't have a piano here," Nathan said. "I know," Chloe clapped her hands. "That's why I brought this." She ran to her room and came back carrying a small toy keyboard. "Miss Sarah lent it to me to practice at home," she explained, placing the keyboard on the table. Nathan sat on the floor beside her, adjusting his position to be able to play the small instrument. "What song did you learn?" he asked. "It's about a butterfly that flies through the garden," Chloe said. "So I see, but first I have to clap so you can learn the rhythm." She began to clap in a simple but steady pattern. Clap, clap, pause, clap, clap, pause. Nathan followed along on the small keyboard, creating a basic melody that matched the rhythm. Then Chloe began to sing, "Yellow butterfly flies in my garden bright. With your colorful wings, you dance day and night." Landing on the red flower, then the blue one too, teaching all the children how to fly like you. The song was simple, but Nathan was impressed with how Chloe sang it. Her breathing was more controlled, her pitch more accurate. He could hear the difference the lessons were making. "That was beautiful," Nathan said when she finished. Can I try a variation?" "You can." Nathan began to play the same melody but added small embellishments. Chloe listened intently, then began to improvise. "La la la, la la la, the butterfly will fly. La 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 la, everyone will sing high." It was the kind of spontaneous creativity Nathan had grown to love, but now it had a more solid foundation, thanks to the lessons. "Miss Sarah said that improvising is important," Chloe explained. "She said music isn't just about singing like everyone else, but also about creating new things. "Miss Sarah is right," Nathan said. They spent the next hour creating variations of the butterfly song, experimenting with different rhythms and melodies. Monica joined them, first just listening, then humming along. "A piano man," Chloe said, her voice turning more serious. "Can I tell you a secret?" "Of course." "Before, when Mommy said, 'Dreaming hurts,' I stopped singing, even when I was alone in my room. But now I sing all the time." The music came back to live inside me. Nathan felt a deep emotion spread through his chest. "And you know why?" Chloe continued. "Because you showed me that dreams don't hurt when you have someone who believes in you." Nathan looked at Monica, who had tears in her eyes. "You didn't just enroll her in school," Monica said softly. "You brought hope back to our family." On the way back home, Nathan reflected on how his life had changed. The routine that was once suffocating now had new meaning. His mornings at the piano were no longer just technical obligations. He practiced thinking about songs he could teach Chloe, or creating arrangements for the songs she learned at school. Even at work, Nathan found he was more focused and creative. It was as if music had awakened a part of his brain that had been dormant. He was balancing the company better with the pleasure of playing, and both were benefiting. The following week, Nathan had an important meeting with Japanese investors. Traditionally, such meetings left him tense and exhausted, but this time, he arrived relaxed and confident. "Carter-san, you seem different. More balanced," one of the investors commented. Nathan smiled. "I've rediscovered some old passions," he replied. "Ah, music," the investor said. "I also play the piano. It is true that music clears the mind for business." The conversation extended beyond numbers, creating a human connection that resulted in one of the best deals Nathan had closed in years. The following Saturday, Nathan went to watch Chloe's class give their first performance at the school. It was a small recital for parents, where each child would sing a song they had learned. When it was Chloe's turn, Nathan felt an anxiety he hadn't experienced since his own childhood performances. She walked onto the small, makeshift stage, wearing a blue dress Monica had bought especially for the occasion. "This song is about following your dreams," Chloe announced to the small audience. "I dedicate it to my mommy and to my friend Nathan, who taught me that dreaming doesn't hurt." She began to sing a version of the butterfly song, but she had added her own verse. "The butterfly teaches us to never give in, even when the strong wind tries to knock us down. With courage and with music, we can always win and make all of our dreams come true." Nathan felt tears sting his eyes. There was a 5-year-old child singing about perseverance and dreams with a conviction that many adults had lost. After the performance, Miss Sarah approached Nathan. "Mr. Carter," she said, "Chloe is an exceptional student. Not just because of her voice, but because of the passion she shows for music. It's rare to see a child so young with so much focus and determination." "She's always been that way," Nathan replied. "She just needed an opportunity to show it. And she was lucky to have someone who believed in her," the teacher said. Many talented children never get that chance." Later, as they were leaving, Chloe took Nathan's hand. "Nathan," she said, "thank you for giving me the music school." Nathan stopped walking and knelt to her level. "Chloe," he said, looking directly into the girl's blue eyes, "I want to tell you something important." She looked at him with full attention. "I'm not just going to give you the music school," Nathan said, his voice filled with emotion and determination. "I'm going to take care of your future. I will always be a part of your life." Chloe's eyes widened. "Always and forever." "Always and forever," Nathan confirmed. "I'll be there when you have your first big performance, when you get into the conservatory, when you become the singer you dream of being. And I'll be here on the tough days too, to remind you that dreams are worth it." Chloe threw her arms around him, and Nathan hugged her tightly. "Thank you for helping me fly," she murmured in his ear. Nathan looked over Chloe's head and saw Monica watching them, tears of gratitude streaming down her face. In that moment, Nathan realized his transformation was complete. He had been a man trapped by luxury and an automatic routine, functioning without truly living. Now he had found a purpose that went far beyond profits and social status. Music had become his source of balance and humanity. Through the purity of a 5-year-old child, he had rediscovered not only the pleasure of playing, but the joy of nurturing dreams and enabling others to reach their potential. Chloe, in turn, was taking the first concrete steps toward her dream of being a singer, with a solid foundation of musical education and, more importantly, with someone who unconditionally believed in her talent. And Monica, who once lived in fear of dreaming, now watched her daughter flourish and had rediscovered her own voice, recognizing the sincerity of Nathan's intentions. It was the closing of one chapter and the beginning of another. A man who had lived on autopilot had found meaning through the purity of a child, and a 5-year-old girl had someone ensuring that her dreams would not only survive but thrive. Music had saved all of them, in different but equally profound ways. If this story touched your heart, subscribe